Thank you for inviting me. It's lovely to be here. And I'm going to present to you the Swedish participation in the Paris exhibition of 1925, which was of main importance for our design development and our design history. And actually, these exhibitions, they started, this world exhibition, international exhibitions, they started in the mid-1800s with the exhibition in London, 1851. And you could compare them with Olympic Games, like a competition between different countries on showing who has the best technology, who has the best quality of art and handicraft. And then one loved to measure each country and also in different kinds of objects, and then sort of finding a winner or a second place, you know, just like in the Olympic Games. And the background to the Paris exhibition was actually that France felt that in the 1910s and 20s they or you were sort of coming behind in this kind of competition where Germany was considered to be taking your first place. And so the Société des Artistes Décorateurs, the Society of Decorative Arts in France, who was an organization founded in 1901 and with people, artists and architects and craftsmen engaged in the matter of this field, of course. They wanted to arrange an international exhibition. But before that, they also made Salon du Temps, autumn exhibitions each year. And in 1910, the Deutsche Werkbund was invited, the German Deutsche Werkbund, where I think these members of the society could really see this problem that Germany is sort of gaining up on you. And what was said was that the German design was mainly focusing on the more contemporary industry and technology and that development that the society was going through, and the French design was more into keeping on to the tradition and artistic quality and that kind of thing. And this division sort of created a need for shaping up, you could say, for France. So the exhibition was planned for the beginning to 1915, but then, you know, the World War II came and there were some other problems, so it ended up being held in 1925. And it was located, I think I will stand here instead. It was located around the Grand Palais and Petit Palais, but the Grand Palais was included in the exhibition, and then on the quay around Seine and around the Invalid area here. So let's see. And one really wanted to emphasize, please enter the room if you don't, yeah, hi. One really wanted to emphasize the need of a modern style. And in the writing of history afterwards, you know, we know what came to be. We know that modernism sort of won the debate on who is writing history. But one didn't know about that then. And I would like to claim that this modernity, which is not modernism, which one wanted to emphasize here in this exhibition, it was actually a very modern style of the period, but afterwards considered to be traditional, not inventional enough, or eclectic, and all these kinds of criteria. Here you can see the Grand Palais and the Invalid area. And Pont Alexandre, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So what the French showed you, what you showed was, of course, you had several parts of the exhibition. I just wanted to show you, to remind you. One of the most talked of parts was the roulement company Rillmans exhibition, which was, an interior company making wallpapers, textiles, furniture, all kinds of stuff that you would need in your home, and also emphasizing really this and embracing the Art Déco, which is the international term for the same period, a sort of same style. In Sweden, we have a sort of a little different version, which we call Swedish Grace. But from an international point of view, you could say that the Swedish Grace is a tinier part of Art Déco. Okay, and the Sweden, we were invited to take part in this exhibition, as several other countries were. I guess due to the war, rather soon has been there, and for some countries struggling with economy, many countries did not join. Sweden was very insecure if we were going to join or not. We said yes to the invitation very, very late, actually. But we came out showing in 3 different places at the Grand Palais, and we had our own pavilion, the Swedish pavilion located here, and then the part in the Galerie des Invalides. And the main the main force and economy was put, of course, in our own pavilion, since that was supposed to be where you, the audience, were supposed to come first, and you would greet us, and we would present to you who we are. And you know, we're a small country in the north. We think of you as one of the big European countries with a long history, with the royalties and emperors, and all, the Fontainebleau and everything. So this pavilion was designed to have this modern style and still presenting who we were to you. And the modernity here was founded on the classical language of shapes, and it was designed by Carl Bergsten, who is a Swedish architect. And I just wanted to, so you can follow me. There were 2 entrances to the pavilion. Here's the Seine. So you could either enter here or there, and then you came into entrance hall and into reception hall with a small abside. You say abside? Yeah. And a water pond and some sort of a garden outside. And this is then the garden, where you and the trees. It was a long discussion. Your trees, you had to build buildings and not destroying the trees, of course. So you had to sort of settle into one of these grounds that you got. And as you can see, we have the classical columns, but very slender. This style is graceful in that way. It's elegant, slender. The surface has importance, and it's rather simple compared to many other styles of the period. And in this loggia, there were reliefs by terracotta, terracotta, you know. Okay. By Nils Sjögren, they were showing different allegorical pictures of the 4 winds, the north, east, west, south wind. One of the things that really got attention were the cast iron objects presented here at the exhibition. And the building was also in smooth plaster in light grey color. That was the color. And these cast iron objects has been of course, shown at the markets, and prices rising. All the Swedish Grace objects the last 20 years, I would say, continuously rising. So buy now, in case you need something. This cast iron, of course, it's not a new material. You made cannons and stoves and stuff like that before. But in the 20s, this Swedish company, Näverkvarn, spells like that, they started to make applied art objects, decorative objects that you could use, mainly stuff you could put in your garden outside, like furnitures. And this, of course, as you can see, has a great, really true reminiscence to antique furniture of Pompeii or Rome or stuff like that. And also, like this very masterpiece, the Bergslagsurnan. It's an urn showing you in sort of the Egyptian kind of aesthetics with this figure on different levels, showing you how the industry of the urn industry in Sweden was sort of made in a contemporary technique, but with roots aesthetical to a more classical time. Then when you enter the exhibition, in this part, you remember, here was the pond and there's the reception hall. You entered a room which is a square, actually, but has a ceiling made like a dome. And the dome is carried with 8 columns. Also, they were made in cast iron, very, very slender still. So this sort of long shaping, is a horizontal and, what do you say? Vertical, thank you. The slender vertical lines were very important. And this was a construction rather typical of how the Swedish looked upon this how to produce stuff in this time. So one made pieces of 2 sizes. There's one size a little bit longer and one size a little bit smaller, long, small, of cast iron, so that you can mass produce them. So it's a mass production, but still very sort of artistic. And after the exhibition, these shorter versions made by Anna Petrus were remade, so you could use the same mold into flower pots that you can have in your garden. And today also the auction prices of her stuff are really going up. So there is an attitude, even though you can think, and the critique to the Swedish Grace from the modernistic point of view has been that it was too exclusive and only the finest materials and that stuff. But it really had a sort of technological interest, and mass production, serial production is not an issue. It's a good thing, but keeping still the high-end artistic quality. Then you entered the square here, the reception hall, and as you can see, it's only black and white pictures, but I'll try to make it live for you a little bit anyway. The floor was a Swedish wooden floor, oak floor, and on the ceilings one had painted in a sort of not in sort of one color, but flambé kind of colors in called caput mortum, which is about this color. So some kind of purple brownish. In Sweden, this is a very popular color for the moment. I just painted my daughter's room in a little bit more pinkish, but in the same kind of nuances. So I say we're coming back to the 1920s. And in the furniture here, there was a sculpture by Ivar Jonsson in the apside, where there were light coming from above, and otherwise I think it was rather dark in this room. And some of the furniture we have in the Nationalmuseum collection, like the chandelier by Carl Bergsten, the architect of the pavilion, and also these rather exclusive furniture by Carl Hörvik in rosewood and birch, with a gilded walls or facade sort of inside. So when you open it, the gilded pieces come into gloom, really. And you can imagine you put something very nicely, a piece of glass or something there. It's really, really impressive. But maybe the most important objects that we showed was not new made for the exhibition. It was this Paris cup it's called, a gift from the city of Stockholm to the city of Paris in 1922, made in crystal at Orrefors Glassworks and with engraved decorations, of course. And I don't know if you know about this, that you have it. It's not something you go visiting every day at Hôtel de la Ville, no? Okay. So on this side is the city hall in Stockholm, and on the other side is a motif from Paris. So it was sort of a gift, friendly, diplomatic kind of gift from us to you. It was exposed like this in the reception hall, And of course, this engraved glass was really something that got a lot of attention at this exhibition. So we're now leaving the Swedish pavilion and we're moving into the Grand Palais. And as you know, that's a huge building where one divided it in several smaller exhibition areas, and cleverly one made a new roof, so to say, or ceiling with textile material. So you didn't see this glass iron construction. You got sort of a smooth, more modern ceiling, but you still got the daylight into the room. So it was clever, rather, I guess, economical way of creating a design. So here we had 2 rooms. This longer room where, so this is a picture taken from this side, and that's the same room from the other side, where we exposed glasswares, ceramics, metals, book designs, things that were considered modern. But I would say, if you think about Swedish design today, you think a lot about, I guess, IKEA, democratic design, rather cheap, mass-produced, non-decorative, very functional, a bit boring objects, right? Yeah, I do. And that was not really what we showed. So it was much more these kind of exclusive, high-end objects. Like this engraved glass again. The Bacchus Parade Bowl by Simon Gate, the same designer who had made the Paris Cup. And the glass blower here, Gustav Abels, he has written about a memory of this work where he had just made it. It was done. The artist Simon Gate comes into the studio and says, "Oh, let's take a look." And he lifted it and crash it into the lamp. So they had to make a new one very quickly, but they managed for the exhibition. And that's what often happened too. That, I mean, not that they broke things, but that you made more than one. So the Paris Cup, one made 2 actually, because maybe what if it would break on the way to Paris? And then when it came here safely, one destroyed the first one, so we don't have one in Stockholm. But several of these objects that we today think are so very exclusive, they were made in several copies, not very many, I mean, not like IKEA numbers, but still in rather a serial production. That was important. And here we have, of course, the antique inspirated Bacchus, the king of wine, and his sort of parade. But look also how they work with different layers in the engravings, that they really create a 3-dimensional kind of quality. So it's not just one line kind of surfaces, it's really building up volumes and dimensions. Unfortunately, we don't have this one at the Nationalmuseum collection. We tried to buy it last year, and we were prepared to pay a lot, but it still was too... I guess in America they buy everything, and Swedish crown is so bad now, so it's very cheap for them. Yeah, so we are a bit sad. Otherwise, but we have other very nice engraved glasses in the collection. This is by Edvard Hald, and these were also showed at the Paris exhibition. And here you can see it's not just inspiration from the antique. It's a very eclectic kind of approach to history or the world around you. So Hald had been a student for Matisse, and this you can see in this bowl. And here is very classical with women and columns. This is a face like a Spanish lady with a whatever they're called, a floor. No? Okay, never mind. A firework night. So you could get inspiration from sort of anything. And this has also been something that one criticized afterwards, that it was too eclectic, too little on track to something, that you didn't have sort of a manifesto or anything. But that attitude was the modern way of thinking, so it was important for them. Also, of course, we showed ceramics with inspiration from China, for example, and but yeah, as you can see, it's also typical. It's rather, if you would take away the decor, it's rather simple shapes still, compared to many other things. Metal we showed, and interestingly enough, we did not just only send new-made stuff. This was exposed in the pavilion, the Swedish pavilion. It was made in 1916, so it's 9 years old, this jewelry box. But obviously thought to be having the quality that we wanted to present to the world. We had some female designers. I already presented Anna Petrus to you, who made the part of the columns that became flower pots. This is another woman designer, Marie-Louise Idestam Blomberg, who made a chess board where the queen is actually pregnant. It's rather, yeah, intimate. This, though, in pewter was started to produce a little bit later. So the ones showed here were made of ivory and ebony. Yeah. Anna Petrus again, working a lot with inspiration from the Far Eastern, like China. If you go to this Chinese museum here, you can see in the middle, in the inner center room, lions having something of this kind of attitude that, of course, she saw also. And then the last part was the Galerie des Invalides, where we had, I thought I had, no, okay, where we had different rooms. So there was library and a boudoir and stuff, different, and some textiles were shown and so on. And this was by Gunnar Asplund. He's a very famous Swedish architect, if you're in Sweden. And he became much more of a modernist later, further on. But this was his first design of the library, which has much more of a classical kind of attitude than what the library actually came out to be. So of course this is a process also where the architects and designers are working on different ideas and then developing them in different ways. But the chair came out to be like this and not like that. So it's a little bit more simple. But here on the armrests there are heads like classical emperor kind of heads in ivory again, not ebony. Yeah, and. This one we newly acquired, or actually got as a present from the French of the Nationalmuseum when we recently reopened the museum after having been closed for 5 years. We got a very nice gift, this cupboard, bought here in Paris at the gallery. What was his name now? Eric Philippe, who had this cupboard exposed in the room by the boudoir by Unorian. We already had the chair and the table from this interior, but there was only one cupboard made, and after the exhibition it was bought by an American family and stayed in the family for very many years. So I have only just until recently seen it in pictures like this and always wondered what it really looked like. So it was a joy to unpack it. And Uno Orén, he made, as you can see, a ladies' room, a boudoir, really with a high-end decorative quality. There is intarsia on this cupboard in different exclusive woods, and decoration is all over, telling you about Adam and Eve in the paradise. But if you take away the decor, the shape of the furniture is rather, could almost be sold at IKEA. I mean, it's very straight and geometrical and so on. The chair has a little bit more upholstery and sort of elegance in it. And then Uno Orén did what every artist, I think, does when you come to furniture fair in Milan or wherever you show your stuff. You go around, you take a look, right? And he went out in Paris and got a really deep creative crisis when he saw Le Corbusier's L'Esprit Nouveau. And he felt, shit, I've taken the wrong path here. This is what the future looks like. And actually, which is, of course, what really became then influential for the modern movement. Straight walls with only one color, straight furniture. Le Corbusier talks of a machine to live in. You know, the house is a machine to live in, and this attitude and mass production, of course, is much more possible here, and so that it can reach wider and wider audience. And actually, we have this cupboard that stood in the pavilion at the Nationalmuseum, so it's the same. And if we compare them, you can see that the decoration all over here makes it a completely different furniture, of course, than this much more. Even though it's mahogany and painted here, mahogany and a mirror. So it's also ladies' sort of boudoir cupboard. And Uno Rien, when he came home, he wrote an article in 1926 where he sort of made up with himself, you could say, maybe. So he criticized decoration. And he wrote that it was terrible to have objects decorated on every millimeter, that you need sort of a space and breathing and all these kinds of attitude. And he argued that the designer should not anymore try to be artistic. Instead, you should devote yourself to the development of the society, which means that instead of being sort of artistic, this is me, you can recognize my stuff, you know, I should sort of shrink myself into what does the society need. We need these kinds of chairs. Okay, then I design them and they can be mass produced and so on. So it became a completely different attitude, which was, of course, established in Sweden in 1930. So he was very early with this. And I think his own reaction to his own design compared to Le Corbusier's design has influenced actually the Swedish design development after the exhibition very, very much, because we were a bit ashamed of this decorative design for a long time. And it has been a problem, even though we got very, very many of these medals in the competition. So you won, France, you won. Germany did not participate in the exhibition. But Sweden, we came on the second place. And I don't know how many people live in France. It's so many more than we do have. So in Sweden, today we're like 10 million people. Maybe we were in those days 5, maybe. So a much smaller country. But we got lots of medals for our participation from the jury that went around and really selected what was interested. And still, this Swedish Grace has been sort of maybe not so shameful, but not something we have embraced very much in the writing of history in the Swedish context. And then you can ask, anyway, how was it possible for a little country from the north, Sweden, to be such successful, to get the second place? Well, we in Sweden, since the late 1800s, one had really worked hard on creating collaborations between artists, or designers, as we will call them today, and the industry, so that the artists should design objects of high aesthetical quality that the industries then could produce, so they would be affordable to rather many people. This had been a goal for a long time, and we had also had a movement on really establishing good taste. What is good taste among people? Not always very successfully, but still a movement. And in the 1910s, the idea of the combining mass production with good quality design was really included in a movement on creating better design in Sweden. And also the good economy, of course, in the 1920s contributed to the possibility of making such things. And a summary then just about what the characteristics are for Swedish Grace. Attention to detail, very important, but also the whole interior, the Gesamtkunstwerk. the whole room or the whole building. So if one makes a building, you don't forget the handles that you touch and just buy them somewhere. You know, you take care of every detail. And elegance, that's something you try to make. Exclusive materials, they're not afraid of high costs due to materials. High craft quality, of course. And that modernity was created through an eclectic approach. That was modern, even though it later has been considered not to be. And then I just want to inform you that in 2021, in 1.5 years, the Nationalmuseum will open a large exhibition on Swedish Grace. If you pass by, you can plan your vacation already. And it will, I think it will open like in February, and maybe it's till now or something it will be on. So, do you have any questions? I know the air sort of ends here. Yeah. Please. Yeah? No, interestingly not at all. They were much more, we call it hemslöjd, very traditional home weaving kind of, much weaving, that looked like 1800s textiles, peasant kind of textiles. So not at all this looking forward approach, but they were considered very, very important. So in the catalog and in different articles and such things, they really lift the textiles as an important part of the tradition. And then there was one designer like Marta Moos. She wasn't a part of the exhibition. She developed this old-fashioned kind of style to a more modernistic or modern way, but rather traditional actually. Mainly carpets and yeah, tapestries that you should hang them on the wall, and carpets of course, and yeah, furniture some of course, but and it could be for curtains and stuff. So it's part of the interior, yeah, but not as slender and elegant as the other stuff, actually. Yeah.
And the furniture?
Yeah.
Where was it produced?
Like this cupboard that we got from the friends, Mobilia. Yeah, of course. Sorry, I wrote it here. Mobilia, that's a company in Malmö in the south of Sweden, and the furniture at the pavilion. This is by David Blomberg, that's also a company. Mm-hmm. And
in Stockholm,
he was in Stockholm, yeah. And she produced it herself, Anna Petrus. And let's see, the furniture in the pavilion was by NK, Nordiska Kompaniet. This is the company, Nordiska Kompaniets verkstäder. Yeah. They were in Nyköping. Yeah, it's south of Stockholm. Yeah, please.
Yes, I was wondering if the success of the Swedish Grace in Paris did increase the market for Swedish artists in France.
Oh, that's a good question. You think it would have been, but I'm not very sure actually. Do you know maybe?
For ceramics and glass, yes, it did.
Oh.
It started to be a thing. Like we had Suédois, who was a retailer in ceramic, and he started to sell a lot.
Okay.
Also Danish, and with the big success of Danish in 1925, the ceramic, it also helped the Swedish one. But for furniture, it was a couple of one retailer for furniture, but it kept being really rare till after the war. And yeah.
Thank you, Alicia. Yeah.
What is the answer, Republic, in front of your research? Is this something still very exclusive, or on the contrary, there is a real interest?
Sorry,
Just I was wondering how your research on rediscovery and so on well received in Sweden or not, because you are going against the modernistic
No, this is what we will present at the exhibition. Nothing has been published sort of yet. But there has been some books now on the Swedish Grace subject, because it's, as I said, the prices are going up, and the auction houses are selling with the label Swedish Grace, so it has sort of a quality stamp. But for me, it's also, and as the National Museum has started to acquire stuff from the period, which also tells you about that it hasn't been the main focus since the modernism was much more important. But I think what we want to emphasize in the exhibition is also the connection to other arts, like paintings and sculpture and music, movies. You know, actually, for the moment, you could have watched Maurits Stiller Eroticon, which we are missing, all of us, from the 1920s. The same at the theater here. So it's more of this whole kind of culture. But for me, it's important to try to understand what was new for them, because in the history writing, it has been considered like Orion said to himself, a wrong step. They took it the wrong way in, or so to say. So trying to look at it with their eyes much more than we have done. Eva? Oh, sorry.
Are the building protected, or they are still destruction, like in France? I don't know. Is the Swedish Grace interior or buildings are now protected by law, or it's still difficult? Or?
Yeah, some. Yeah, I guess some of them are really famous, like the City Hall. And the City Library and stuff. We have many housings from this period. I mean, really normal people living in flats made in this period. They are not protected, I think, like that, and rebuilt and so on. So the more exclusive places, yes. But we have a problem, as I sort of touched on, that in Sweden we are not allowed to. The National Museum can stop things from being sold abroad if they are 100 years old or more, and these are not. So I guess that's also why lots of things are being sold for the moment, because in a few years we can say, no, this cannot leave the country, but we cannot do that now. So, and also our our money is rather low, and so it's rather sort of, or it's cheaper for other people to buy. Eva, did you want to ask? No, okay. Yeah. Yeah, please.
Does the pavilion was kept or maintained or destroyed after the exhibition?
They were destroyed. So all of them were destroyed. I think they were only built to last for the summer, or for the exhibition time.
It was not the case in 1878 for this exhibition, because Swedish Norway pavilion was kept not in Paris, but in the suburbs. Still visible.
Okay.
Le Art Déco.
I haven't been there. Okay. Okay. No, this is nothing left of, unfortunately. Yeah.
I just have a question about patrons and collectors. So was there big patrons of this kind of art in Sweden or in other countries? Or
You mean for the time being?
yes.
In the bourgeoisie, I guess you could find these objects. Of course, I mean, even though there comes a modernistic movement arguing for cheaper objects, usable objects, there was for a long time people that wanted to buy these things, and the style, so to say, was kept in the 30s, 40s even, like presents when you're 50 or you retire, you know, that kind of gifts. But I don't know, a specific collector? No. Today there are, though, of course, yeah. But of the period, not really. I don't think so, yeah. I have to check into it.
It was much more supported by the state than by...
And soon trying to be forgotten, so to say. So not supported at all, maybe.
So to now make the promotion of it, maybe you should
Yeah.
wait it until
I know. It's a problem. Yeah. Yeah, I know. I know. See if I can push it forward. Talk to my boss. He's not here now. Yeah. Okay. So thank you, everybody, for joining, for listening. Thank you.